Welcome to the SOB radio show, where we have fun, interesting guests, and hot topics. Each week, we offer insights into music, fashion, health, fitness, and humor. Do you have the perfect guest for us to interview? I want to know. Drop me a line on our Facebook page at Spunky Old Broad 1 or reach out to me on our website at spunkyoldbroad.com. And now, back to the show. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gail, SOB, Spunky Old Broad, welcoming you back to the Spunky Old Broad Show. And I want to ask each of you if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel under Spunky Old Broad. I sure would appreciate it. However, today we have a very interesting guest by the name of Peggy Bell. After a 40-year elementary teaching career, she knew retirement wasn't for her just yet. She knew there was more to do with her life and felt a calling to help adults this time around. She set out to become a certified personal development coach and focused her attention on women in midlife who have experienced widowhood or divorce to transition past the loss to a place of renewed purpose and joy. So she started her own business, Live Your Purpose, to encompass all she does. She's a multiple best-selling author, a co-author, and over her 25-year writing span, she's written 5 books of her own, working now on her 6th as if she doesn't have enough to do, and numerous magazine articles, including Women's World and Thrive Global. Wow, Peggy, welcome, 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 welcome. We are so delighted to have you today, and you're doing such good work. I'm so glad that we found you. How are you?
I'm great, Gail. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are delighted. And, I've already said that you chose this particular niche work from widowhood or divorce to a renewed purpose and joy. Why did this stand out to you so much?
Well, back in 2009, I became a widow myself. And it was the lowest point in my life. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And 10 years after, I saw my daughter going through a divorce, and she had a lot of the same emotions and feelings that I went through those years before. And I just felt, as a calling, really, if I could help one woman lessen the pain in any way, it would be worth it, because it was just a really traumatic point in my life.
Wow, I consider myself fortunate then, because my husband passed away in 2008. My daughter is divorced, although strangely enough, she and her ex-husband are now living together in a mobile home to be neither daughter at opposite ends of the mobile home, one bedroom on one side and one bedroom on the other. And my granddaughter is now going through a divorce. So I've been fortunate. I had a wonderful 45-year marriage. I was so independent because I've always had my own business that I didn't have, I miss my husband to this day. I've never even dated. But I can tell you, I didn't have the same kind of trauma. I had grief, but I didn't have trauma, which makes a big difference. So right. You are a midlife transition coach, and I think I know what that means. It sounds like you help people get from one place to another, but what exactly does that mean?
Yes, when they are ready, when they feel like, okay, I'm ready to move on, I've been through this in this dark place for enough time, then I help them see clarity, and I let them see the available options that are available to them. And so through this transition, then they start to take control of their own success and happiness.
What's the biggest thing you've learned from all of this, Peggy?
I have noticed that divorce and widowhood, even though they're not exactly the same, they are both life-changing events. They both require, they're both big losses in your life, and they both require grief. It's not something you can just kind of shove in and pretend it's not going to be there. You have to go through the grief period. And so I was kind of surprised, actually, to see that there's so many similarities with dealing with the grief of losing a spouse through death, and then the grief of a loss of a marriage through divorce.
That's interesting. That is very interesting that there are so many similarities. And I guess people feel like they've gone through a death, when they go through a divorce. Um, let me ask you, because I love this. You say you believe you find your message within your mess. Explain that.
Okay. Life can be messy, and divorce and marriage is, divorce and widowhood is prime examples. And when you're in that, what I call a fog, because you're in that dark place of grief and you're not really seeing things clearly, when you do come past that, if you really are looking, you can see opportunities out there that you don't even know that you want. I think the message is there waiting. You just need to be able to find it. It can be something that you have used to love doing, but you never took the time anymore to do it because life got in the way. Um, for me, it was the calling to help widows. That wasn't even on my radar, and when things became clear for me, it was like, okay, I need to help in any way that I can to lessen this pain, to help them know what they're feeling is not uncommon, to let them know that there's support somewhere. So I started a widows group on Facebook just to give support, and that's what I think your message can be. Once you can clear the fog, dig deep, you're going to find some opportunities.
So, what are some of the typical feelings or concerns they seem to have? I know that, with me, I was lucky because I paid our bills, so I knew what our finances were. I was in business, so I was independent. Um, it was really the loss of joy, because we just had so much fun together. And 45 years of fun. I mean, were there ups and downs?
Right.
But, joy was really the factor for me. So what did you find are the typical feelings and concerns of others?
Well, that's definitely one of them, but the loneliness, just not having the company, the couple, you change, your social circles change sometimes. For many of them, it's financial because suddenly, big part of their household income is missing and you still have the obligation. So that's a big worry for a lot of them. And just knowing what their role in life is going to be. I remember that for myself because I was at the end, I was his caretaker, and suddenly all of that's going and I have time on my hands and it's like, okay, what now? Who am I? And so that's a common concern for a lot.
Wow, I am so happy. I was so lucky because
Yes.
I had all those things, and I didn't realize the impact it would have on someone else. I still have the same friends. The same, we go out in couples, except I'm single. And
Yeah.
we don't go anywhere anymore. But, when we did, and of course I would pay my way and they would pay their way. And, but every one of my friends is still there. But I think, Peggy, it was because they were my friends. They weren't his friends. They were my friends. He was
Right.
not a social butterfly, and me being out there in the public all the time, I think made a big difference. And of course, my friends became his friends and they adored him, but they were still my friends first. So they still are with me and we talk, not every day, but we email and so forth. So fortunate there. So, you know, again, I would think, I'm trying to think of what changed in my life. Not a whole lot, truthfully, not a whole lot. Everything kind of went the same. So, what do you think keeps them from moving on? Is it a lack of education of what to do? Is it um, just a feeling of, oh my gosh, my support system, my other half is not here, and I need a substitute? What prevents them from moving on?
I think the biggest area would be fear. just fear of the unknown, not knowing what life is going to bring because they were either comfortable in their marriage or they were miserable in their marriage. They had maybe a low self-esteem, low self-doubt because of, if they were in some type of marriage that was controlling. Leaving that comfort zone is very, very scary. And that, they keep hearing that self-talk, that negative self-talk about you can't do this and what if this happens? And so the fear just makes them stay where they are and afraid to move on.
I wonder if, of course, your daughter's going through it. So I'm just wondering if the younger generation is not like that, because so many of them are working women. I went into business, God, in 1959. So you're 90, yeah, you can imagine how long I've been in business. And so I've been independent for all that time. So, but then again, I have to tell you something. My mom was a widow for at least 30 years because she lived to 99 and a half. So
Oh, wow.
she was a widow, and she really didn't have an education. She left school in the 10th grade to send her brother to college because that's what you did back then. She only worked when my sister went to college and I went to college. She went to work to help with the expenses. But when I finished, she was done. So she really was a homemaker all her life. Her whole entire life, and I mean this sincerely, was devoted to her family. I mean, she was a wonderful wife and a wonderful mother. Yet when my dad passed away, she did okay. She never dated, but she was social and she had friends and she did things. And later on in life, I mean, I'm talking in her 90s, she said to me, well, I guess I should have dated, but she was very independent, even though she had always been dependent, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So perhaps I got all of this from her, but yet she did live her life that way. And man, I tell you, she really did live her life. So do you think that the younger generation will be different?
Well, I'm seeing still a lot of people, younger women, even though I do work with midlife, just from my own social friends who have children, daughters, and some of them are really struggling because of the marriage that they were in. They were just brought down to believe that, they weren't worth anything. They weren't going to amount to anything. They couldn't get out of the marriage because they couldn't survive without the spouse. They were married to narcissists. So I think it all depends on your own situation. It's easy to get broken or to feel broken rather, when you have that kind of situation. I was fortunate that I never had to deal with that kind of thing, but my daughter did, unfortunately.
Yeah, self-esteem is so important, and self-worth is so important, and self-belief is so important. I commend you for working with these women on that, because that's what I try to do in the speeches that I give and the people that I coach. I try to show them that, there's no limit. I mean, you can be whatever you'd like to be. I mean, you're not going to be 5'7" if you're 5'1", but
Right.
but
Realistically.
you gotta be realistic, right? Realistic goals that you can attend. And but I also think, there's something else involved, and I bring this up all the time, Peggy, and that is how you were raised. My mom raised us my sister and I, to be very independent. My sister had a very successful career, lots of lifetime achievement awards. I've had lifetime achievement awards, and she just raised us. She said, look, when you're going to college, and I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to be a star on Broadway. And she said, no, you're going to college. And so anyway, I did go to college. I got out early because, I just didn't think it was that hard to do. And but she always said, when you get out of college, you better have a job. So my thought was, okay, I have to have a job. And I I don't want to be cold anymore because I was, brought up in the North and went to college in Boston, which had its share of storms.
Yeah.
And so my goal was to head to Miami. And if I didn't make it in Miami, I was going to go to LA. And I gave myself 2 weeks to make it. And I had saved up $200. And so that's what I did. And I made a reservation on an airplane. And my mom said, "You can't go that far away from home." And I said, "Look, you told me I had to have a job. You told me I had to do it on my own. This is my money that I'm doing it with." So I flew to Miami with the idea of getting a job in 14 days. And if I didn't, I was going to go to LA. And believe it or not, I got a job on the 14th day and bought the business 8 months later. And I was 21 years old.
Oh,
So
wow.
and then of course it was kind of cute because my mom came down to make sure that my living conditions were good and so forth and so on. But I really credit her because the way I was raised, and when I would say "but," and she'd say "do it," or "you can't do it because," or it was just I had to face every crisis that came up in my life. I had to face it and I had to deal with it and I had to get on with it. And I value that. So, uh, you know, you say that the voice inside us very often sees us and tells us to be louder, to be more negative. And for some people, more than others, that's true. So, what do you do about women taming that inner voice? I mean, it all goes back to self-worth, but you can tell somebody and tell somebody and tell somebody, but that doesn't mean they're going to believe it. So, how do you
Right.
deal with that?
Well, one of the things that I do, and it kind of may sound silly to some, but it actually worked for me and it works for other women too, is I use visualization. And when we think of our inner voice, because it's so negative, have to we think of it as loud and powerful. And so I learned to do just the opposite. I gave my inner voice a name, and I chose an old-fashioned, unflattering name. I envisioned her to be this old, feeble woman, weakling, in torn and tattered clothes and unkept. And so right then that took that power away. And when she would start to nag and have that inner, negative talk, I would call her by name and say, "I can do this." And I would immediately take action. And then I would prove my point. And then slowly she started, taming and getting silent. And I very seldom hear her anymore. And I had a lot of success with women doing the same thing because it just, in their mind, they no longer had power over them just by the way they envisioned them. And so visualization is a powerful tool. And so I use it with that also. And it seemed to work.
Wow. I know visualization is very powerful. I don't do it well and I don't meditate well. Those are two skills that I really need to work on because I just don't do those well. I mean, I see something I want and I just go for it. I don't visualize it. I don't know how to explain that. I just go for it, period. But, visualization, I guess I know enough people who do it that if you really visualize well and you've got this all the alter ego who kicks it out, who says no,
Yeah.
do those things. You've got that other part. That's really great. I mean, uh, it's an interesting thing how people have to find kind of their own way of making something happen or doing something. But I just think it is fascinating that this actually helps and works. And I would think, what is the best thing that one of your clients has said to you about their transformation? What do you hear from them?
I hear things like, "I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what direction I was going to go because I was totally lost. And now I have my purpose again. Now I can, I've learned take over this business, or I started working again and I'm making my own money, so I feel worthy now. And just knowing that they have success is just great in my book. It's such a awesome feeling to know that you can help someone.
Absolutely. So, if a woman who's listening to this wants to find, that renewed purpose, how would you go about helping them find it?
First of all, I would make sure that they are ready to move forward and not being pressured by someone, because you really have to go through that grief of loss. But if they're ready, then we sit and we talk about, what is something that you want to accomplish that's realistic? Because I've had people say, well, I want my husband back, I can't do that, and then we look at things. What are things you used to enjoy doing, but you gave up? What are, maybe they really enjoyed doing artistic things, but then they had families and they just didn't get to it anymore. So we look at what their strengths are. And then, I'll ask them, if money wasn't an object, what would you be doing every day? To just kind of see what are they passionate about? Because sometimes they just lose that passion over life, depending on what kind of situation they had. And
what's the craziest answer you ever got, or one that shocked you?
About what they'd like to do?
Yeah, like, imagine you have all the money in the world and you don't have to worry about anything. What would you do?
Some of them wanted to live on an island and just stay away from everybody, be antisocial. But most of them are, they're realistic in what they want to do. They want to start a career, or they want to open a business. They just want to be independent for the first time in their life because they never were. Those are usually the typical things that they tell me.
That's so interesting because, I don't know, living on an island wouldn't be so bad, I guess.
But I'd have to talk to somebody, I think.
Boil your fish or whatever you catch and so forth. But yeah, you see all these people who have become kind of beachcombers and they just, don't worry about much at all. But that's interesting that really they just want their life back, is basically what you're saying, right?
Exactly, yeah. And for some of them, if it was a bad marriage, they haven't experienced it in so many years because they lost control of every dollar they spent, they had to answer for it, or they weren't allowed to work, so they were home and never socializing. And so those are the things they crave now, if they can get past that fear. And that's what we work on too, that low self-esteem and leaving their comfort zone. They desire it, but they're afraid to go after it.
It's funny because I think maybe you ought to teach a course on how to find the real person in your husband to be. Because why didn't they notice this before? They didn't notice this when they went out to dinner. They didn't notice this when they went to a social event. They didn't notice all the things that he controlled before they were wed. I mean, I remember saying to my husband when we were dating, because when I dated him, he was a carpenter. And then when we got married, I sent him to contracting school and he became a contractor. But I said to him, I have got to handle the money in this family, because I knew that he was not good at it. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to hate me for this. And he said, oh, thank God. He said, I'm terrible with money. I'm glad. And every paycheck, until he went into business for himself, every paycheck, he just turned it over when he came home. And we never even had those arguments, because I just kind of set up the rules ahead of time. But I think you ought to start a course on what to look for before you even get married. Here are some danger signs, But we just have like a minute left in this segment. We'll be back in a little bit, folks. But stay tuned, because I'm talking with Peggy Bell, and Peggy coaches women in their midlife about how to handle grief from losing a husband, and also grief from getting a divorce, and that's especially hard when kids are involved as well. So stick with us. We'll be back, and she's got a lot more to tell us. So stick with us. And again, maybe this is making some of you think about your own lives and where you are, and are you prepared if something happened to your husband, or what would happen if his revenue source was cut off, if something happened to him. Those are all things you need to consider. So hang tight. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dr. Gail, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.